I'll show a quick preview of a new graphical plugin we have coming out called SmartForms. And SmartForms is a replacement for the built-in query variables view. And I'll also talk a little bit about some improvements we've made to the Explorer that tie in together with that, as well as the Code Explorer that make for a really, really tightly integrated experience. So let's just dive right in and build a query. Let's say that, for example, I am building out a search form. And I want to go into Spotify and I want to search. And I have a query input. You can see all the inputs here. And for any tracks that match that, I want to get their ID and their name. And I can come in here and I can try some hard-coded values. I can run that and it works just fine. This is great. But of course, whenever it comes time to actually run this in production, this is probably going to be a parameter. So what I'm going to do is say this is going to be a variable called query. I'm going to add that in here. It's a required string. And you can see over here that the SmartForm has actually reflected on the query input and sees that, okay, this is a required string. So if I come down here and I say, well, now can I search in here? I have this kind of web form that reflects a little bit more what my actual application is going to look like. And if I want, I can come in here and actually see the generated JSON. It goes back and forth. I can copy it all at once. But if I want to stay inside of this form view, I can. So let's go ahead and build a login or a sign-up mutation. And what this is going to do is, as I explore and I'm trying to build, I'm reflecting on the API that's available. I'm seeing the mutations, and I see a sign-up mutation. And as I expand into that, let's go ahead and move this up to the top so it's easier to see. As I expand into that, I see that it's parameterized by all these different fields. And on success, I might get these fields back. So what I can do is come in here and try to write this with some hard-coded values. And okay, that looks like it's working okay. But of course, this all needs to be parameterized. So what I'm going to do is actually right-click on the field inside of the Explorer. And that's going to reflect on the type of the field. It's then going to generate a variable based off of the name. It's going to insert that into as a data dependency to the query, along with the hard-coded value that we have right now as a default value, and then finally replace it. So that's a lot, but look at what this experience is like. I simply come in here and right-click and agree to terms of service is a Boolean that's by default false. And if I right-click again, it devariabilizes it. And you can see how the form here just kind of builds itself up. So maybe, for example, I'm going to come in here and say, let's do full name and email, password, password confirm, and agree to terms of service. And now I have this full sign-up form in here. So I can say, all right, so let's go ahead and do Sean at test3.com, and we'll type in a password. And again, I can see the JSON if I wanted to. And I'm going to go ahead and run this, and we'll set the terms of service to false. And you can see that this is acting just like it's going to act inside of production. So I get this great kind of experience where my application is kind of building itself right in front of me. So now whenever I go ahead and fill this out as true and I run it, I've actually signed up. This is a working sign-up form. And you'll notice that these password fields are a password input. And that's because the SmartForms allows you as a developer to reflect and say, what is the type of object, what is the type of input field, and what's its name? And based off of that, you can actually provide a custom React component to replace the default one that we would generate. And so that's great for things like color pickers or date pickers or even file uploads, which are one of the biggest show blockers for experimenting inside of GraphiQL. And of course, we'll update the code that's exported as well now. So every one of these operations will now generate a form with a little submit button. So you'll have this fully working form for each of these components whenever you copy and paste into a React component. So it's this really tight experience from beginning to end. That's just it's amazing to see and kind of almost magical to see your application building itself in a highly optimized way right in front of you as you explore.